Good afternoon and welcome to the show. I'm Deacon John On. The topic for today's show is going to be Polish and Catholic. This is going to be fun. So on my right, I have Stan On. Okay. On my left, I have Frank On, but better known as Mike Blickars. I have to say that because everybody knows him as Mike. Stan's well known in the area because you do a lot of sports activities, refereeing and umpiring and stuff like that, so people know you from that. And Mike, you worked for a company called Sutorium for how many years?
45
and
years.
People from this area went up there and they knew you as Mike.
Right.
That's why I said that. And they come back and say, I met your cousin up there at the store. So they know you as Mike Blicker. So we're going to go with Mike and Stosh or Stan, whatever comes out of my mouth, you're going to do it. Okay, yeah. So I just started doing a show with my two cousins on being Polish and Catholic. Basically, we've grown up about the same way. Both our fathers are Polish, our mothers are Polish, and the customs are the same. And we both went to Polish churches. You guys went to St. Stanislaw Kostka in West Rutland, and went to Sacred Heart. You guys got educated by the Felicians in the elementary school. Both you guys did.
Right.
I got educated by the Felicians on Saturday mornings with my religion and Polish language. And Stosh went to West Rutland High, though.
Yes.
Yeah. And Mike went to MSJ.
And we had Sisters of St. Joseph there at MSJ.
There you go. So you got it both ways.
12 years of religious
education,
teaching,
right? Yeah. And I went to Bells High School because I went to North Wallball Elementary School. But anyway, basically, our lives have been about the same in customs and stuff. So you want to chime in? I can remember at Christmas time we had the Vigilia.
Yes.
And then at the time we were growing up, we went to midnight mass when it was midnight. Right?
And after midnight mass, because the evening meal on Christmas Eve was a meatless meal.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And one of the best parts, once you got home from midnight mass, was it was time to have a ham sandwich.
Yeah, right.
Okay? Mom and Dad made sure that they had the ham or the kielbasa or whatever it was, and we made sure that we had a good sandwich made with some sort of meat right after midnight mass. That was a great part.
2 o'clock in the morning, right?
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah,
I remember
midnight
that.
mass was not an hour mass. It was usually an hour and a half.
There you go. Yeah, about 2 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
We're eating kielbasa or shenka or whatever. But yeah.
Didn't know how good it tastes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I can remember that thing with that. Well, of course, and at Christmas time it was the Vigilia, and then at the Easter time it was the Święconka when the food was being blessed by the priest.
Yes.
Yes.
And I can remember when we used to come to the houses to do it, but then it cut down to where there weren't that many, so the people would bring the stuff to the church and be blessed at the church. And now, both you guys were your servers, altar servers?
Yes, both. I know I was into my junior year of high school.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
And how much, Stosh?
Well, I only lived 100 yards from the church.
That's right. Yeah, you're right.
So on Christmas Day, first Christmas Eve, I would serve midnight mass, but at 7 in the morning, I was back at church.
There you go.
And I served another 3 masses on a side altar.
There you go.
Even though there were high masses going on, at the front altar,
right,
there were 2 or 3 priests invited to also say mass there to catch up on masses that were paid for people who had passed away.
Exactly.
And so they were catching up on those masses so that those people could, worship there for them. And so I spent all Christmas morning at church.
There you go. Yeah.
So it was I think I opened my presents, the few that we would get.
Yeah.
Somewhere around noon.
Yeah.
On Christmas Day.
Yeah.
Had to wait a little bit. You appreciated them more then.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, but so you had a brother and 2 sisters.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and Mike's got a sister.
Correct.
Of course, I'm an only child, but I think you guys are my brothers. We've known each other for 70 years? At least.
Anyway.
Pretty close to that, right?
Yeah, at least to that, yeah. But now when you guys served like I did, probably you had to learn Latin.
Oh, certainly.
There you go.
Everything was in Latin.
Yeah,
right.
So now, true my fault is now mea culpa, mea maxima culpa. In Latin back then. And then we'll talk about serving. I lived about a mile from Sacred Heart, so when I got to 8th grade in high school, I'd do the morning masses, and I'd walk across that Connecticut River in the middle of January with the freezing cold to go to 7 o'clock mass. Kind of hustled over there.
Well, one thing in St. Stanislaus, we had there was a daily mass every morning at 7 o'clock.
Yep.
And if you were an altar server or an altar boy, that what we were called then, you had a schedule of, you had 1 week, just like everybody else did.
Right,
You made
yeah.
sure that you had to be there at the church 6:30, quarter to 7 at the latest.
That's right.
So you could prepare to be the server for that mass
That's
at 7
right.
o'clock in the morning.
Yep.
And you didn't think anything of it. You
No.
were an altar server, and your schedule said that this particular week that you had to be there every morning, Monday through Saturday,
Yeah.
to serve that 7 o'clock mass. Your parents got you out of bed, fed you breakfast, brought you to the church.
That's right.
And at the time, the school was just down the street from the church.
Yep.
So you had your book bag and you headed for school right after
that.
mass was over.
Right.
And you just never gave it a thought.
No.
You know, you didn't complain about it. You just
No.
did it because that was one of the things that you did at that time.
And yeah, and I agree, 100%. In fact, I remember when it was May 23rd, 1954. 23rd was special for me. My dad's birthday was May 23rd, but 1954 I was 7 years old, and I was my first Holy Communion, and right after that, I was eligible to become a server. And I always thought that was great. And I mean, to me, I took pride in as being an altar server.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I say, I mean, I walked across the bridge coldest mornings, but you did it. That's what you wanted to do. That was part of life at that time.
It was the thing that was
Absolutely.
part of your life.
I
You're
can
right.
remember walking from North Walpole to Bells Falls High School. My father would be going by in a truck, coldest day of the year. He'd toot the horn and away, but he wouldn't ask me for what. Keep on going, that's it. Keep on going. And I remember that. But anyway, that's what built stamina, and that's what built character.
We
and
ran
respect.
to church because it was so close by.
Yeah, yeah.
And we would often get calls for funerals out of the blue. When there were no service,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
or weddings. In fact,
Yeah.
we were phoned to. Okay, we
Yeah.
need some help.
yeah,
And my mother would say, "Okay, get dressed.
Yeah.
You're going."
yeah.
And Sunday afternoon too
Yeah.
for
Devotions.
devotions.
Yeah. I can remember my mom sang in a-
Benediction.
Yeah, my mom
Right.
sang in a choir. My mom also played the organ at Sacred Heart when the nuns weren't around. And I can remember going over there and singing in the choir during funerals or weddings or masses when she had to be there. And we didn't have a babysitter, so I grew up basically in the choir. And but the thing is I remember same thing with what you were saying is that Sunday afternoons during Advent we had the evening prayers. During Lent we had the Lamentations.
Sure.
Fridays we had the Stations of the Cross. And then we had the 40 hours devotions, the missions. And we were always there to do it. We're serving.
Well,
all
the
time.
40-hour devotion was something that I still remember because our priest, Monsignor Mahuka, would have Father Retzek come
Yep.
over.
Oh yeah.
And he was fire and brimstone with
Yeah.
his preaching.
And he
you
still
know,
was
during
like
those-
we had him. Yep.
During those, and of course, as young as we were, I would catch a Polish word from now and then, but my parents, I know, would come home from service and shaking their head, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
What Father Retzek was saying.
Yeah, well, that's
Oh my
when he was
gosh.
on the mission band, and then after he retired, he came to Sacred Heart, which was supposed to have been a 6-month fill-in. He stayed for 30 years, but anyway, no, I enjoyed him very much as a priest. Of course, he calmed down a little bit after, but I mean, yeah, he still had the same homilies that he gave on the mission band. So you heard the roast, and he'd talk about names that people don't know. Like he'd talk about Baron Garius and different people in church history that people look at. It's like, who's this guy talking about? But anyway, no, he did a super job, and
Absolutely.
we were I mean, pleased to have him. But if you look at the vocations that came out of Saint Stanislav, where you had Monsignor Orzel, Paul Orzak, Ben Wojcimierski, Father Felix.
Stanley Sagaza.
That's the guy I was thinking of. Yeah, right. That guy too. Yeah. So all those vocations, plus the religious, the nuns, the Felicians.
Yes.
And I know down here at Sacred Heart, my uncle Father Stan and my aunt Sister Fidelia, and then we got an aunt Sister Margaret Henry that was of the St. Joseph Order.
Yes.
So the religious vocations coming out of those parishes and the upbringing that we have is still with us today. And our parents done a super job. And I know after my mom died, my dad died in '69, my mom died in 1990. And one of the first homilies I gave as a deacon after that, I said, thank my parents for 3 things: my life, my nationality, and my religion.
Well, when we were kids growing up, there were the 10 Commandments, okay? And that's what our parents taught us,
Lived by.
ruled by us,
That's
lived by.
Yeah.
And there was no gray area at the time. Those were the 10 steps. Some of them didn't apply to children,
Right.
okay? But most of them did in one way or another. And there was no gray area as
Right.
far as that. It was right or wrong.
Right.
And these were the commandments. Those were what you lived
Yeah.
for, or lived by, I
That's
should
right.
say.
Yeah.
And I know my folks helped me to
You were
them.
held
That's right.
accountable.
Yes.
You were, that's
No
right,
question.
exactly.
And your
exactly.
neighbors did too.
That's
If
right.
you were doing something mischievous, there were people that would phone your parents and let them know, okay, Stosh or someone is,
Yeah.
my brother Tom would be caught stealing strawberries or whatever, but my parents found out.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Oh,
there
no.
was a lot of the families in town where I grew up that weren't necessarily Catholic, but even those families there, they knew what the 10 Commandments were. And they raised their children pretty much in the same way that our Catholic parents were raising us. What was right, what was wrong.
That's right.
And like you said about the neighbors, would tattle on you or whatever. They knew what you were supposed to be up to and not supposed
That's
to be
right.
up to. And they kept you in line.
Yeah.
They helped your parents keep
felt,
you in line.
I felt the same way. Our neighbors were the same way in North Walpole. That they were like that, but they were very respectful about it too. And because their children were brought up the same way I was brought up.
Correct.
Same way. There was no whatever, and that was good because I can remember growing up in North Walpole. There probably wasn't a house at the time that I wasn't afraid to go to if I needed to for some kind of help. If I needed to at that time.
Right.
But today you suspect you don't know who your neighbors are anymore and what's going on, and that's the big difference about how we grew up, and what we knew how to respect the adults.
Well, you knew the neighbors too.
Exactly.
And I don't know if everyone knows people in their neighborhood today.
It's changed a lot in that
A lot.
respect.
Yeah, considerably it's changed a lot. Yeah.
There was a couple of families there in town, and my aunt lived right next door. She was one of the places. If any mom wanted to know where their son were, call Malbania. Okay, because we all hung out there at that house.
Yeah.
So most of the moms and dads knew if they were looking for their son, the son was late for dinner, or they had to be someplace. Call there
Yeah.
because they were probably hanging out there, and we're having a good time playing ball or whatever it was.
That's
so
right. That's
it was
right.
always a meeting place for the kids in the neighborhood.
I can remember going up to Rutland, and when I say Brookside was where our grandparents lived. Our grandparents' Bleehouse lived at Brookside, and just down from the St. Joseph College, if you're familiar with Clement Road. And I can remember being up there and then staying a week up Brookside and a week down to Mike's house. And when I was hanging around on Bunya's front porch, and we were counting cards or something, or going to Dewey Field and playing softball, or up behind your house, play softball up there. And I remember we got together one time. We went to how we got involved in was we went to Wilson Castle. I remember that or
on
not.
the West Proctor Road.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
How we ever got there, what we did.
Oh, I have no
Probably
idea.
walk.
I know it was a long time ago, but we did go there. I remember that.
I
The
can't
three
even
of us.
remember that.
Okay, I do.
Yeah.
Because I remember the banners hanging inside of the building and all that, but we got together somehow because and then we went over there, and I remember that like it was yesterday, and going to the fair a few times, and hanging out at Brookside. I can remember a couple of Christmases. Man, I don't know how we ever made it or not, but we'd drive from Bells Falls on the Christmas day up to Brookside to get together with everybody. And
I always had a good Christmas party, Christmas
oh,
night.
geez, I can remember Dorothy would be playing the piano, not the organ, but the piano, because they had an organ on one side and the piano on the other, playing the piano, and the Frankwitz girls used to start singing.
Who played the accordion in that family?
Dorothy.
Dorothy did too?
Well, Dorothy Bleehosh played the accordion, and Dorothy Frankwitz played the accordion.
Okay.
Yeah, I know she did. Now, whether Maria or Dottie or Brie or Betty did, I don't know, but the oldest girl played an accordion too, along with Dorothy Bleehosh.
Dottie.
And our aunt played in the polka band,
Right.
White Eagles, which was the Chawhorters, which as our grandmother Bleehosh, that was her family, the Chawhort
Right.
family, and they were the musicians, and so they had that. And I can remember Dorothy coming down here a few times to play at different functions, because they had the polka band. They come down here.
You know, something that I just recalled that maybe was part of your life was that there was a few times when we had social events at school, but during Lent and Advent, there was a short window there between those seasons where there were dances and such at
Right,
our high
exactly.
school.
Yeah,
And
you're
but
right, you're right.
During the Lenten period, or
Yeah.
there was nothing like that.
No,
you
no,
know,
yeah.
It seemed to be really strict in terms
I can
of,
remember having Good Friday off because that was a given,
yes,
you know. And we used to go to church on Good Friday morning, and we would get together to have practice for Friday afternoon and Saturday night and Sunday morning as altar service.
right on.
Yeah,
Right on.
but today it's no longer like that. And when I grew up in North Walpole, it's funny because I think it was a parochial school run by the public, because we had teachers that were Irish Catholic women, and the principal was a Frenchman who was an ex-seminarian, and during Lent he used to send us down to St. Peter's Church on Friday afternoons for Stations of the Cross. The non-Catholic kids used to go home at that. That was great, but you couldn't do that today in a public school.
No.
Amazing, huh? But that's the way it was.
Well, one holy day that I especially have fond memories of was Easter Sunday, when we would have a procession of maybe 30 girls dropping petals of flowers,
Flower girls.
and then process throughout the church,
Yeah.
and probably, another 30 altar boys,
Yeah.
and the priest with the monstrance and so forth, taking it from the gravesite to the altar again.
Yeah.
Place was packed.
Yeah. We had that.
You couldn't find a seat
Right.
because there were, another 40 or 50 people standing in the back.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
such
the
a
same
Masses
memorable-
were very
memorable
well
event.
attended.
Yeah. Same way at Sacred Heart. I can remember the procession on Easter Sunday morning, and the same thing with the church was full. And what I can't get over is I can remember doing devotions as a server on a Sunday afternoon, and there were all kinds of people at the church.
Yes.
Okay, now we have microwaves, we have automatic clothes washers, we have dryers, we have cars, all kinds of conveniences, and people can't find time to go to church anymore. It's not there.
Well, you mentioned the Sunday afternoon services to be there as an altar boy. And they were, I think, 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
They were.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you may go to Mass at 8 o'clock on a Sunday morning, so it means you got home at 9:30, and you had 3 or 4 hours to do something before it was time to go to church for that afternoon service. And it didn't make any difference whether you were going to take a walk in the woods, you had a ball game scheduled with your buddies someplace, but you had to make sure that you were home for about 2 o'clock to get cleaned up and get into the family car and head for that afternoon service. It didn't make any difference what you were doing.
That's right.
But you made sure that you had to be there and to make it on time, whether you were just attending the service or whether you were going to be one of the altar services.
I was the same way. I can remember one time I had a chance to play Little League ball, and they didn't have a server to do mirroring devotions in October and in May. My mother says, "You're going to serve," and that was it. No questions asked. so much for Little League ball. I was at church serving. But I can remember how I learned the first time was that the older guys never showed up, so I learned how to do the censer with the 3 chains without spilling the charcoal all over the floor.
Right.
But we learned, I tell you. I'm putting out the candles with the candle extinguisher, and I can remember one time there was 40 hours going on, and we had branch candles on the main altar, and Father Anthony Yugalevich was the pastor at that time. You guys had him for a short time in West Rutland, but he was the pastor, and I remember lighting the branch candles. Of course, on the end of the lighter, you had a little hook with a ball on it that you would extinguish the candles with. Well, I kind of hooked a bunch of flowers with that, and I pulled it. Over comes the vase, the water, and everything, and he looks at me, and he just kept on going, and I just felt. But that was, it was what it was. Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah. In fact, the cross we have behind us is from the original Sacred Heart Church, which is behind you somewhere there.
Fabulous.
Yeah, we got them. Yeah, that's from the Sacred Heart Church. It was given to me as a gift after the church closed, from being a deacon there. So, but I remember carrying that back to the altar when he put it inside the little groove where the monstrance used to be for benediction, because you take it out, take the cross out, put the monstrance in, then take the monstrance out, put the cross back in again, and bring them back and forth from the sacristy. And I can remember when we used to bring the chalice in from the altar, we couldn't touch the chalice, so we used to take the chalice veil and wrap it around the handle of the chalice so you didn't touch it. The nun said, "You can't touch it because it's a sacred vessel."
Right.
So
Yeah.
we're afraid to touch it. And,
weren't quite good enough or old enough or whatever happened to be.
well, there you go. Yeah, right, right. But anyway, like I say, I mean, we've got a lot of cherished memories and fond memories and happy memories of of what we did, because I have to thank our parents for it, because they brought us up the right way.
Well, you mentioned, you know, at Easter time, the Saturday before Easter Sunday, how all the Polish people, especially, you know, in our parish, the moms would get ready. They'd be preparing for a week.
You would.
For this Easter dinner, but that Saturday morning, our parish priest, there usually was two, but they would invite priests from different parishes to go around and help go to everybody's house and bless the food on those Saturday mornings.
Yeah.
And as there became less and less priests to rely on, that service, if you will, that the parish priests would come around, bless the food, visit for a few moments. As there were less and less priests, that's why it turned into one of those things where you took your food to the church,
right.
because you just did not have the visiting parish priests anymore to come and do that.
Yeah.
And it was something that we all looked forward for.
We had that up at the Sacred Heart until when I got to the point where there weren't that many people, so it's just basically come to the church. But we always had a missionary come to help the priest out there to conduct the services on Saturday night and Sunday. And would it be another Franciscan, like when Father Felix was in the parish, Father Paul Ritzik, no relation, but he was a Franciscan from the same province in Wisconsin, would come over and help out, like that. And speaking of Father Felix, just as a note, he told me, because his real name was John Michael rather than Felix. He changed it to Felix.
Did he?
John Michael. And he said that his godfather was your grandfather, Pietrika.
Okay.
So there you go. So I want you to know that.
All right.
I told you once before, but he did tell me that was his godfather, was your grandfather.
Yeah.
And of course, families go back. And in fact, I think he said that your mom and he were in school together.
I believe they were.
Yeah,
right?
they were. They're at St. Stanislaus.
Right.
So. And of course, then he told me that Monsignor Varzoha, a lot of people call him Warzoka, that he was one of the top achievers in the school, that on grade average. For he's a smart guy. And
well, those Felician sisters made sure you did your homework too.
oh yeah, I can imagine. Yeah,
there was no slacking off about. There was no excuses that the puppy ate your homework or whatever it was. If they assigned you, and we had several different classes every day, and most of the time you had homework from each one of those classes.
Yeah.
You made sure you had it done for the next day. Otherwise, you were in trouble.
Oh yeah, I agree. Oh yeah, they were pretty strict, but they were good though. I appreciate the ones that they had here in Bells Falls, and I remember they taught us. They had a summer school for religion one time there, and they taught us all kinds of songs in Polish, and I still got them here in the back of my mind. And remember, that's back in the '60s or '50s and '60s, but those things that stay with you, like the Polish language or whatever. And to get back to Brookside, I can remember going up on the Christmas parties, and all our cousins, some of them have passed on, but we'll always be up there, And,
sure, it was a great family gathering.
It was super. I mean, I can remember, like I said, the Frankowitz girls always singing, and of course the Banya kids would be there, and of course Cindy and your sister Mary Ragged, they were smaller ones, the younger ones. Of course your brother and sister's a little bit older, so they were a little bit bigger. They were there.
Well, not by much. Tommy's a couple years younger than I, but Manya and Margaret were about Mary Margaret's age.
Were they? Yeah.
So. And we, it was like all the brothers, Blickar's brothers, seemed to have children about the same age.
Right. Yeah.
No, in that night of that party, you hated to go home.
Yeah,
you had, even though it was probably a school vacation, you didn't have school the next day, but it was still certain time of the evening, usually about 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
That's when, Mom and Dad decided it was time to go home. Hated to leave, but it was time.
I had a great time, even though we had to drive all the way up and drive all the way back. A couple of times, my mom and I stayed there. My dad would come back from work on Monday, but either Val or when before Lefty got married, they'd be there, so they'd bring us down to Bells Falls. Like that. And I remember a couple of times that I stayed up to Brookside, and then Val would bring me back, or your dad and mom would bring me back home to Bells Falls. And I remember coming up from Connecticut, Lefty would stop in North Walpole to pick me up to take me to Brookside. And I remember after he met Rose, she'd be in the car with him. He had that 1959 Ford convertible. Yeah, right. I remember that. And then of course the Ford, the Model A that was up in Brookside, we'd take rides in that every once in a while, and all those things are fond memories. And like I say, you know, because of who we are and our parents and our grandparents, and we've
One
carried.
other thought that I had was, I don't know if it happened in your family, but there was a time just before bedtime, maybe 8 o'clock or 8:30, where the 6 of us would all kneel down and say a decade of the rosary.
Absolutely.
And so every night that's what happened, you know, and whether or not we were playing sports or outside, it was the family would wait until everybody was gathered.
I can remember
and say
staying.
prayer.
I can remember staying at your house, but one night Sophie invited me over to have potato pancakes, and I stayed over there that night. And I can remember that all of them would, you know, say the rosary together like that, you know. And I can remember, of course, being an only child, my mom and my dad would go up to the bedroom with me. I'd say prayers in English and in Polish.
Mm-hmm.
And but like I say, you know, happy memories and cherished memories, and the three of us, you know, we couldn't ask for a better families, the way we grew up, you know.
A lot of enjoyment.
It were, yeah, we tough times. And so I appreciate both you guys coming on. I think we enjoyed ourselves. We could probably go another half hour if we had the time, but I guess we don't.
Oh, okay.
Maybe we get together again and just have a show on whatever. But
We'll watch this tape and then we'll start again. We'll start a whole new section.
well, there you go.
Maybe
Chapter
we can
2.
talk about Polish food.
Okay, yeah, we can do that.
We haven't got to that, did we?
We can do that too. Well, we
Okay.
got. First, I want to thank my wife Janie for she made 2 big pots of gołąbki for us, and I appreciate.
All right.
I appreciate her doing that for us, and also she baked an apple pie. So
Nice.
So I'm Janie's a hard worker and a super cook. So I'm looking forward to having supper pretty soon. But
Where's the tip jar?
yeah, there you go. Okay, but. From the people that watch the show, I really appreciate it. I'm going to end it in the Polish way by saying do widzenia i maj błogosławiać w imię Ojca i Syna i Ducha Świętego. Amen.
Amen.
Amen.